Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Wendy, and you are watching Wendy Makes Art. I am just a few minutes late tonight, but I thought that we would do something fun. I do not have a lot of research done up ahead, so I'm going to warn you right now. I'm going to pull things up on my phone. We're going to tackle this guy and see how much we can get done. So one of the pieces I've wanted to do is the Mona Lisa with dinosaurs. And someone, I think it was my mom who suggested that I go ahead and do a brontosaurus with this piece because they have this gentle, or they're always portrayed, I think because they're just so big and plant eaters. They're not carnivores. So they've got a little more of that gentle giant look. And we're going to try to pull that off with the position of the head and the look. And then I believe that what I'm going to do is have the neck come down, and we're going to put foliage instead of arms. So I'm going to kind of base this off of the trees. I can still do a landscape similar to hers, only I'll have to change it up a bit. And I really thought this painting was small. Like, I've seen it in the Louvre, but it has been a very, very long time. Like, over 30 years. And I remember it being really little. Like, I expected it to be big, and it was very tiny. However, 30 by 21 inches does not seem very tiny. And so I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that. From what I saw, I could have sworn that the painting I saw was maybe 15 wide or 12 wide tops, but it was so long ago, it's hard to tell. With that being said, I pulled down some of my long-necked plant-eating sauruses. I'm not sure what kind of saurus we'll go with. And I know it's going to be a long-necked dinosaur and a plant eater. And I really want to focus in on the eyes. So I may be looking at those, like a larger, is it going to be more like a giraffe or with the eyes? Will I give it lashes? I think that's really up to us, but I've got to start by looking at the skeletons. So, first things first, I'm going to go into Google Chrome, and I'm going to look up Brontosaurus fossil head. I think that's really what I want. And kind of see what we can get with that. And I am going to need my glasses, and we're going to kind of go from there. So I'll kind of, the Felch Quarry, that's a Brachiosaur, Brontosaurus, out with the old skull, in with the new skull, has a Brontosaurus skull. The skull of a Brontosaurus has not been found. They think it's similar to the skull of the closely named Apatosaurus. So let's look for that one, since it has had found. And we're going to take a look and see what they've got. Found in Morrison, Colorado. And let's see what we can find. I'm looking for skull. Skull image. Okay, here's one. That's interesting. Apatosaurus skull. And I'm guessing that the eyes were way up in here. they're very narrow. Check this out. So if I look at, oh, that's a different saurus. No, I want the Apatosaurus. Like this. So let's start sketching that out and kind of getting a feel for the Apatosaurus. And I'm going to write that name down on my sheet. Annie C., happy Friday. Did you know that they have never found the skull of a Brontosaurus? I can't believe it. They believe that it was similar to an Apatosaurus, which we've got right here. And then what I want to do is kind of find out what kind of critter this guy would look like. And we'll go from there. So he's got this comes up in here. I'm going to take a snapshot of this too. Okay, so that I can come back to it. So, and then there's an oval in here. There's an oval that comes up in here. This meets in with where the skull goes. And I'm just doing a quick drawing to get a feel. So I get a feel for what this looks like. I think it was closer than that. And of course I went too long. That's okay. I'll just chop it back a little bit. Right in there. And then this piece comes out here more. And diagonal from here. And we can kind of see through to the other side. There's a bone that comes partially in here. And then there's like this triangular bone in here. And I want to get a feel for, like, this has a little ledge to it, and this comes down. So if I didn't know better, it looks like something was attached in there, something soft. But I am not a dinosaur expert. I just like to draw them. Well, they would have found the rest of the skeleton. They just didn't find the skull. I thought this was interesting. This is not it, though. So let's see if we have any more. I don't know what this was. Here we go. Apatosaurus skull. I would love to see how big it is. Here. This gives us a good, it's mashed, but it looks pretty wide from the top. And here's one too. So they're pretty, like from the top of it, it reminds me, believe it or not, of a gator. So flat. How the top of this goes, if we're looking at it. And the eyes are very far up. way up in here. This is where the eye sockets would be, at the near the back of the head. So the head's back here, their eye sockets are way back here. And their mouths, this looks pretty flat. And they have a hole that comes back and down into this one. And then back in where this top of that is. This was carved more like that. And then where it came in there is that connection bone. There's this bone right here that starts, and then that oval back in here, which I believe is much out there. Like if we're looking down on it, I'm trying to get a good feel for what, and they have these chompers, but they had to have been not meat teeth. What's the side of this looks like? I'm surprised how long they are. They're really long. And I wonder where the rest of this. So he's got like a significant dent up the middle in both of these. Here we go. Now this is Brontosaurus skull, but we know they were never, so I'm sure that this is the Apatosaurus skull instead. And this part is really flat, which is interesting. So these teeth right here would have come out. And then little chompy teeth in the bottom. Would have had little chompers that only came in right to about there on the inside. And then they kind of go diagonal into the mouth here. So they finish right about there. Other little chompers. Something like that. This bottom of the eyeball looks like it would come out, and that this piece would be bigger right in here, so that the eye was in this space, and then this is more like that. Okay, and this is actually really narrow. So I think it would have been a lot more flat like this. Just looking at these others. Okay, and This is great. Apatosaurus skull. It has lots of pictures. So if we look at this, I'm looking at Mona Lisa because what I've got to do is kind of find the right position. This would be about right, like this. This one. I'm going to show you guys. Only maybe a little more head on because you can see both of her eyes. So it's going to have to be up and looking over. So if I were to draw that, just set this right here or over here. I'm thinking, oh, I also kind of want to get a feel for how far back the top of this skull goes. Right here. Like what happened at the back of it. I think that this came down and was more like this. If I had to guess. You guys can't even see what I was doing up there. Okay. So I want my Apatosaurus to, like, with her, it's going to be like this, only really the eyes have to be in here. And between them, I'm almost wondering if I'll pull up a different animals. I think we're gonna have to do that. What would be a good one? Maybe a hippopotamus. Let's take a look at, no, I don't, well, they've got that nice flat area. So this is gonna be its little teeth right in here. And then its neck is going to be, now it may be up higher and foreshortened, so we may have to do that where we're foreshortening and bringing this in a little more. Yeah, that may be what we have to do so that he doesn't look totally goofy. And depending on where that head is and that neck comes down, we've got our neck coming in here too. Maybe I just look at a hippo head on. So let's see, what would that... Well, let's ask Google. Let's just go back in here and ask Chrome. And let's say, what living animal skull closest resembles Apatosaurus? wants to sign in. There are no living closely related animals with a similar skull structure, as the sauropod skull shape is specialized for their specific feeding mechanisms. Well, that's interesting, gang. Right? Huh. And it's closest to the Diplodocus. Early restorations incorrectly used a blunt-snouted Camarasaurus skull, which was the result of bones from different dinosaurs getting mixed up. He had a more elongated snout and narrow teeth. Okay, this helps. The skull of Apatosaurus, and closely related to Brontosaurus, is best characterized as long, low, and horse-like, with peg-like teeth. That's critical. Most closely resembling the skull of its relative Diplodocus. Among modern animals, none closely mirror the specific, highly specialized and elongated skull structure of these massive long-necked sauropod dinosaurs. Interesting. The skull was relatively small for its body. Some reptiles have peg-like teeth. The specialized, elongated, and light-boned high nostril structure is unique to this extinct group. So I could also look at some reptiles have peg-like teeth. Okay, so then we go, let's ask reptiles that have peg-like teeth. Prehistoric marine reptiles, modern reptiles. Okay. The Tuatara has specialized teeth fused directly to the jawbone. Some agamid lizards. So let's look up agamid lizard. And then the Tuatara, which is Sphenodon? D-O-N? D-O-N. All right. Image. Let's look at the agamid. I'd like to see what his head looks like. Well, that's not helpful. It looks like a lizard, but it doesn't show me his teeth. Let's go teeth. He doesn't have any teeth. He's just a little lizard. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, that is just not spot on at all. Hey, Humming Wolf, how are you? Okay, we're gonna look up the Tuator then dawn teeth. This ought to be good. He doesn't look like he has teeth either. What are they talking about? Look at this little guy. I mean, little teeth, but not like what we're seeing in this Apatosaurus. Okay, here's some little ones. I think I've been led astray, guys. Okay, let's look at a horse skull. Interesting. Really. So I don't want to go to Etsy. I don't want to buy it. I just want to see it. Images. Oh, look how big this Clydesdale one is. Wow. So yeah, it's really different from what we're looking at with this guy. So different. Let's look at an alligator skull. Now I think his nose is closer. Like if we look at this, we've got the length, but this guy's nose is like a lot wider because it comes out. It's almost, I even think I have it too narrow here. It's really far out. And then he's got those goofy little pig teeth. So very different from the alligator. Though some of these, like the eye socket, resembles this guy right here. This part, not behind it, but that part right there. Now let's look at let's look at a hippo skull, because I said maybe a hippopotamus. Wow. Okay, not even close. Check this out. Would you have guessed? Look at those teeth. No wonder they say hippopotamus are so dangerous. Oof. I don't want to do that. Back. Where is that picture? Back. There we go. Okay, guys. That is a hippopotamus skull. Did you have any idea? I had no idea. They look so sweet. They're really scary, yucky. And it's not even close to what we're looking with, like with this. Oh, I thought I could pull something, you know, like just in general. But that is like shocker of the year for me, the hippopotamus mouth. That's craziness. Mind me never get into the water with a hippopotamus. That is nuts. Okay, what about a crocodile skull? Let's look at a crocodile. No wonder it's so hard for these guys to, like... Okay. Now their eyes are more in the middle. Like these guys were definitely on the outside. I think we were on track over here with this guy. It's just a matter of the perspective, which maybe this will help me. Kind of, it almost looks like a puppy. They're so sweet looking. I think he almost has to be kind of straight on. And then it's up high. So we do this, get rid of all of this. And we're going to clean my mess up, practically erase everything. And then oh, we need new lead. That's my problem. Humming Wolf, what you painting tonight? You working on something amazing? Okay. I'm yawning again. I do this every week on this show. I get in here and I am so tired by Friday night. And I keep threatening that I'm going to change my nights, but it hasn't happened. Oh, this must be the wrong 0.7. No, it should be 7 millimeters. I feel like I'm missing a part in the front of this. Something fell out of my pen. There we go. There we go. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Okay. Put that back in there. So I'm going to look at this guy again. This is better than having to make one because I don't want to have to make one. I am tired tonight, guys. Now, I probably flattened his nose more than it needs to be. And then down here. And I've got to remember to get his teeth right. I think his head would come straight up like this from his neck. And I'm guessing his teeth are going to be a hot mess of little rod-like teeth with a bite, overbite. So we're going to kind of bring that in there. And there's that. And we'll see some of the side of his face maybe. Maybe I see part of his cheek coming down over here on this side so that we can get an idea of that. And this may be a little higher yet, right there. So like that. And I think I need to move his neck over to here. Yeah. That will seem more realistic. Just to move this over here. I did make it on Go West. Thanks for jumping on. I was talking to Go West earlier and I said, I knew I felt like making art. But I was really torn. I was like, what was I up to? Because I hadn't planned a lot. I hadn't really gotten resources images for this or done a lot with it. And I'm trying to keep these all moving. At some point, it's going to be a lot of hours. But I've got to get past a few other projects that I'm working on to free up more time for this project. Okay, so here's his nose, these little guys where he breathes, which is interesting. and it looked like it went back and then over here. So right on here. And I want them to continue to look very sweet. So maybe we just do the opening, not those marks. Because he needs to look very, sweet's the only word I've got for it. So what I was going to do is have this and then instead of arms, as this goes down, I was going to bring some of the plant life, like looking up through in here. I don't know if that's the best way to do this or not, but that's what I was thinking. Otherwise, I have to have a dinosaur with little arms, and I talked about maybe doing T-Rex, but she's not very T-Rex-like. So if you guys can think of a dinosaur that would be a good fit, that is more of like a gentle giant than a man-eater, even though they didn't get to eat men. Unlucky dinosaurs. I'm sure that they would have munched men down like crazy had men been alive. One I found was interesting. It's got this, it's actually more like that. Comes in here and then up. So I want to kind of bring that in there. And this is dented a little differently. So kind of like that. And then he'd have this ridge, and then the eye would sit up in here. Now I'm thinking that it might like as I add his skin and his eyes. Let's look at a horse eye straight on and kind of see what that looks like. Kind of get a feel for like what the area around it would look like. Let's see. Not really inset well. And then this piece is going to be set back like that. So whatever's going on with it would have to be like that. And he might have had a bit of a jaw like in here, which I kind of like the idea of that. kind of nice. Kind of gives him a really sweet, gentle look, right? Just starts to make him feel a little more like a gentle giant. And then this would come in here. Depending on what we want to do with his head and skin. I want to mirror both sides. Kind of like this. Now, if I'm going to make it a lot like the Mona Lisa, he needs to be looking off to the side. So I need to really bring this in like that. And I can probably light it a lot like her. This pointy, a little pointy in the middle. And I'm not sure, I might have to move this in a little bit. Just based off of this stuff right here. I don't know if this is quite right. Now this will come down in here. And the teeth would end up being like in that. I don't think that I have, I think I'm doing too much of a, there, more like that. Now, this guy can't see in both ways, but I guess he could probably have a little bit more, I don't know. very alien-like. It's starting to feel, which is a little weird, but. It's actually nice just to draw tonight. It's like a nice way to end the day. It's been a busy week. Trying to think of his neck. You know, like it's going to probably be more like this as it comes down. And then maybe more like that. So maybe more in that line. Think I didn't center it quite right. I turned it almost too much right in here. So I think I'm going to have to play with that a little bit, straighten it out. Bring this over a little bit. If he has an overbite, what do you guys think? We're getting there. I think we're getting there. I love all these erasers. If you haven't had a chance to get yourself some of these erasers, this is, these two I think are both Tombow Monos. Yeah, they are. And this one is a rectangular shape. This one is like a little, it's like a pencil. It's like a mechanical pencil, so it's got a long narrow tip on it, but they are so fun to use. And then this one is a bigger one, and it's a Derwent, so it's like a big square, go back and forth. But I really love working with them because I feel like I can I just feel like they're more like a pencil. I feel like he's not quite, like his face is a little cattywampus. And he needs a little more in here. And that this side of his face is wrong. So we'll just kind of shave some off. And then even him out. Because remember, some of this is foreshortened. So just trying to center him a little bit. And that's part of my problem right there, is his nostril is wacky. And I think both of them should be closer to that line. So like that. And like that. Oh, that's the end of it. That's what my problem is. Okay. I want to look at like a head-on round thing to kind of see how that. Maybe a goose head might be a good one to look at straight on. Let's look at a goose. You know what? I have some in my photos. I'm going to look at goose. Here we go. These guys are pretty darn cute. I don't know if I have any looking right at me. He's animated for sure. Hear him? They're funny, aren't they? Right there. Straight on. Okay. It gives me a little better idea. My eyes are not lined up. So this one isn't lined up right, which has nothing to do with what I'm looking at, but whatever, right? And then his chin, this is good because I got to get this bottom chin in here. So this helps me see a little bit of that. Even though it's a completely different critter. Helped a little bit. You never set up, so you're watching on YouTube, Humming Wolf, but you're chatting on Twitch because you never set up a a YouTube account. So I'm thinking that's what you were meaning by that. Okay. Now, what I want to do is bring the colors in a little bit more like her. Maybe do something like that. Nope. It's going to be more like that. There we go. There we go. That's better. Because of where that weight in that neck is. And I was going to play a little bit with gouache. I brought some of my gouache out to kind of play with some colors. Now, my palette is enormously filthy. I mean, look at that. It's kind of crazy. But I was going to mirror the colors that end up in this painting a lot like she is. And maybe we even carry little things like the part. We'll do something like that in here, in his coloring, so that is just like a little shout out to the piece. Now, I may bring the watercolors out. They may be more beautiful to work with. Oh, you have Peiko Studio Tour on YouTube, but you don't have your own channel. You definitely need to get your own channel. I know, preaching to the choir, right? So I'm going to bring some of this light color in first, and I'm going to leave my drawing because this is just like an early planning sketch. So we'll throw some of this color in here. This is also bristleboard, so this is not watercolor paper. I'm not quite sure how it's going to deal with the watercolor paper. We're just going to kind of go with it and see. So I'm just pulling some colors in that feel right. I think that we could carry some of this in the neck. Some of this really dark. I'm kind of seeing what I've got here. I don't even know what's in this palette. So it's just a test. I'm not giving my dinosaur hair any. See, what I'm going to do is play with this. I think I can bring it in like a pattern on the neck. Like this. And that will simulate that long hair. So really just bringing the colors in like she is. Cool that off. Red it up. A little bit of that. A little bit of that. So like under here. And even in here under the shadow. We'll bring this in here. And that clear eyeball looking over to the right. So like I need to make sure I've got a little area in the corner that's going to be pretty pink. Like just a little bit of a peachy pink right in this corner right here. And I think I can even darken over this lid and back to the back. And then back to that golden tone in the middle. Now it needs to be not so yellow, a little creamier. So I can even bring some gouache into that. Cream that up a little bit. It's going to have a little more peachy pink in it. So we'll use it. this is doable, guys. I think I can pull this off. Again, it's going to be the head, and then the hands are going to be very well, they're going to be plants. They got to be plants. Of course, this needs a lot more work with the color. This is just a sketch, so to get the feel for it. So I think I'd give him yellow teeth. Probably add some blue in there in the shadows. And bring a lot more of that reddish brown to the sides. I could play with the pattern in the neck. And then I just want to lay a little bit of that cool blue-green kind of color back there. So see what we've got. It's a little cooler than that. And it might even have a little bit of blue in it. But if you can kind of look at her, how she's got this behind her. And then it starts to get in these yellows a little more. More of this. I've got all these little scrunchies in here, right? Like all these crazy colors. And this would go around her eye and over, like right in there. And then more of whatever that background is. So I've got a couple palettes in case you're wondering what I'm working with. I have a messy gouache palette. That's what I'm putting on right now. And gouache is basically opaque watercolor, so I just mix them. I don't mind working back and forth between them. This is watercolor on this palette. This one up here is gouache. Lebowski, welcome. Nice of you to join us. You've been slacking tonight. Usually you're on. So that's watercolor that I just put in there, and mix a little bit of it here. And then her background goes to like this golden cream color again. In here. It mirrors down in here by her head with like a little trail. Now, it's dinosaurs, so there might be a path from them walking, but definitely not humans. And then that red comes back in, which I think is interesting. We've got some of this red that'll lift back into the scene over in here. So that'll kind of give us the idea of what those colors within that are gonna look like. Okay, guys. I think I am due for some serious lounging tonight. So I'm probably going to end it there. I'll kind of revisit it. There are little things like she has this, it almost looks like hairnet. It's this little tiny fair line. And whenever I do this, I think I'm going to need to add that. Like just this little fair line across the dinosaur's head. That picks up on that. So I can try to really color it as best as I can. I'm going to need to make a lot of decisions about plants, what kind of plants he has, keeping them in this color scheme, but you know, like how this comes down in here and what the plants are doing to simulate this. It's the only way I can go about it. Okay, gang. Well, I think that is pretty much it for tonight. I'm so glad you all stopped by. Lebowski, even you came by eventually. And I hope that whatever you do, you have a fabulous weekend. And I will catch you all next week. Anyway, take care. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you soon. Bye.